Thank you for taking the time. Aaron Reitz, tell me, why are you running for Attorney General?
Well, look, I think that Texans deserve to have what President Trump called me when he brought me into the Justice Department as their next AG, and that is a true MAGA attorney and a warrior for the Constitution. Attorney General Paxton has served our state faithfully for over the past decade, and we need to keep our foot on the gas. And whether you look at my experience as a Marine Corps officer, Afghanistan war veteran, clerk on the Texas Supreme Court, deputy under Paxton, chief of staff under Senator Cruz, and then my time as the head of the Office of Legal Policy at the Justice Department, that record, that background provides Texans the confidence that they need to select their next Texas AG, and that's why I'm running.
Speaking of Paxton, you've kind of described your candidacy as a transition from the Paxton administration to what would be your administration to keep that continuing. What are some of the favorite things that Attorney General Paxton has done during his tenure?
Well, when I served as Attorney General Paxton's deputy, he routinely referred to me as his offensive coordinator. And the work that we did together spanned the entire portfolio of major legal issues that Texans care about, whether it's border security, big tech, election integrity, protecting our kids against some of the radical agendas, parental rights, education freedom. You choose the issue, whatever your issue may be, and I have litigated, defended, appealed, sued, and investigated on all of those issues. And so when Texans are looking to support or elect their next Texas AG for somebody who has the proven battle-tested experience to be ready on day one to continue fighting the fights on behalf of Texas and all Texans, it's me. And so we're going to continue to put our foot on the gas and press hard in those directions. What you're going to find out of me is somebody who is ready on day one to very closely integrate with the Trump administration to advance the law and order agenda here in the Lone Star State. And there's no candidate in this race who's better suited to do that than me.
You mentioned battle-tested. You're running right now in the primary against two sitting state senators. They've been on ballots before. Senator Joan Huffman, one of the longest tenured members of the Texas Senate. One of their critiques might be that you don't have enough experience. What would your response to that be?
Yeah, look, I think that that is a loser critique. Anybody who's saying that somebody needs to get in line and wait several more decades for the right time is really just an excuse for saying, hey, it's my turn to run for this office. This is my office. I've waited long enough for it. I think that is the sort of low energy mentality and approach that State Senator Joan Huffman and Mays Middleton are going to bring to this race. I think that if you put our records next to each other and you compare them all, and you want somebody who is ready on day one to serve as a state's top lawyer, my record, I think, beats theirs and any other candidate. Again, when you look at my record, litigating, investigating, suing, defending, and appealing on all of the major issues from the perspective of this executive branch legal role, I think my record beats theirs every single day.
Speaking of being ready on day one, what would that day one, those first 100 days, those first 6 months look like under the Aaron Reitz as Attorney General regime?
Yeah, so I think that the first 2 years are going to be characterized by very deep integration with the Trump administration, okay? Obviously, President Trump, when he elevated me to the Justice Department under Attorney General Bondi, he specifically praised my record litigating on major issues with Attorney General Ken Paxton, and then he specifically called me a true MAGA attorney and a warrior for the Constitution. So when I'm sworn in on January of 2027, you're going to see the first 2 years of my tenure being a close partnership with the Trump administration to advance the law and order and justice agenda here in the Lone Star State on all of the major issues from election integrity, border security, protecting families and kids, going against big tech and their suppression of free speech, and all these major issues for the first 2 years, close integration. Those second 2 years, we'll have to see what happens with the presidential election in 2028. If the White House is retained by Republicans, you're going to see ongoing partnership with a Republican administration to advance law and order here. If you see a changing of the guard, you're going to see what I did for my 3 years under Attorney General Paxton, and that is suing the federal government under Democratic control to ensure that Texas liberty is protected here at home.
Speaking of that integration with the Trump administration, on June 4th, right, we saw that lawsuit come from the Trump administration on the Texas DREAM Act, which was later not challenged and enjoined within that same day. What were your thoughts on that move, and would you try similar moves for other laws here in Texas that may run afoul of national laws.
Yeah, it was a great instance, a good example of where you can see close coordination between the federal Justice Department under Attorney General Bondi, my former boss, and the state of Texas, where there are unresolved legal disputes between the state and the federal government. And now that you have allies, you have that close partnership between Texas and the Trump administration, we're able to solve problems. Obviously, illegal aliens should not be receiving the same sort of tuition that in-state folks do. American citizens from out of state getting charged a higher price for tuition than illegal aliens, I think is fundamentally unjust. And so I applaud the cooperation between the Trump administration and Attorney General Bondi and the state of Texas to make sure that we do the right thing by Texans to ensure that their taxpayer dollars are not going to subsidize illegal aliens. And so that's just one example of what you can expect out of me as the next Texas Attorney General in terms of the cooperation with the federal government.
I know that you were in the end of your tenure there at the U.S. Department of Justice when that happened. Do you have any role in that?
Well, look, I was the presidentially appointed Senate confirmed head of the Office of Legal Policy. And the statutory mission of the Office of Legal Policy is to plan, coordinate, and execute all matters of high priority to the administration and to the Attorney General. And so if you saw any headline-making news coming out of the Justice Department, you can guarantee that I was in some way involved with it.
So speaking of your former boss, Attorney General Paxton, there's a lot of headlines in late 2023 with that impeachment trial. What were your thoughts on the way everything went down?
Yeah, I joined Attorney General Paxton's office in October of 2020 just as the mess was happening, and I stood by Attorney General Paxton. And for those next 3 years that I served under him, we had to litigate all kinds of issues regarding the sort of legal, the lawfare, the weaponization, the political accusations that were thrown at him. Now, as I was transitioning from Attorney General Paxton's office to serve as Senator Ted Cruz as Chief of Staff, there was a lot of close integration as the House was gearing up its impeachment, and then the trial went over to the Senate. I think that what didn't stick legally, the certain powers that wanted to take him out tried to make it was a political attack at that point. So I do not support the impeachment. I was happy to see that he was acquitted. And now that we see the Justice Department and other law enforcement is dropping all of these cases against Attorney General Paxton, I think at this point of the year 2025, he's been fully vindicated. I'm happy to see it, and I'm happy to stand by him.
You know, we've seen a lot of laws passed in recent years when it comes to K-12 education and DEI, ESG. What would you do to make sure that Texas school children are protected? Yeah,
look, I am extremely happy with the school choice legislation that's passed out of the legislature and signed into law. As the Texas Attorney General, my job is to enforce the law as written. So I like to see the legislative process work itself out. We're also going to see what's going to happen in this next special session. My job as the AG is to take those laws and enforce them vigorously and with energy and with equity and fairness, okay? So look, my tenure with Attorney General Paxton as his offensive coordinator, we had all kinds of lawsuits on ESG, DEI, protecting kids, ensuring that our children were protected in schools, and that woke indoctrination was not happening in our public school system. I have a record that shows I know and have successfully litigated, sued, appealed, and defended on those issues under Attorney General Paxton, and Texans can count on me to continue that same vigorous, battle-tested fight moving into the future as AG.
Speaking of special session, we have this contentious debate over hemp right now. Some of the arguments is that right now people are saying it's not actually being enforced the way that 2019 Farm Bill was written, and that there are products that are already illegal that are flooding our streets. Is there anything that you could do as the Attorney General to help possibly crack down on the laws as they're currently written?
Yeah, look, this goes back to the fundamental constitutional role of the Attorney General, and that is to represent the state in Texas in court and to vigorously enforce the law as written. I know that the debate is only heating up over hemp and THC and marijuana in Texas. Obviously, you see different perspectives from different camps on that issue. I'm going to let the legislative process play itself out. My job as the AG, folks are not voting on me to be a legislator. They're not voting for me to be part of the legislative branch. Texans are voting on me to be a law enforcement officer in the executive branch. And so I want the legislative process to play itself out, to speak for the voice of all Texans. And once the ink dries on the governor's signature on whatever law gets passed, Texans can count on me to enforce the law with vigor energy, and focus.
All right, let's wrap up here with one last question. I don't know how closely you were paying attention to the legislature this session, but what was your favorite bill that came out of the 89th legislature?
Yeah, I would say it's the school choice bill. I couldn't be happier to see it. I'm a happily married man of 4 young children. We homeschool our kids, and so this has a direct effect on me, but I also love to see the benefit that this bill is going to bring to millions and millions of families around Texas. It was overdue. We finally got it thanks to the good work of Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and the legislature, and so many people working behind the scenes to get school choice. But now the key is Texans need an attorney general who is going to litigate and defend that law now that it's on the books. Because if my experience has any bearing on the future, I can guarantee you it's one thing to pass a bunch of laws and take the photo ops. It's another thing to defend it and ensure that the integrity of those laws is upheld in court. And that will be my job as AG. And so if you like school choice and you want it to stay upheld in court, I'm your AG.
Thank you so much, Aaron Reitz. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.